Hi everyone, my name is Lizzie Griffey, and today I'm going to be presenting or talking about Marsha's case study. So, to analyze her story, I'm going to be looking at it through a lens of social work values, assessment, trauma-informed practice, and the interventions I believe as a social worker would be most beneficial for her. So, just kind of to reiterate, I'm a social work major, so a lot of these are going to be social work related perspectives or recommendations. As a future social worker, my role in a case like Marsha's is to assess the emotional, psychological, and environmental factors shaping her experiences, and also to determine how to support her in her immediate safety and her long-term well-being. Even though Marcia is not facing physical abuse, the emotional abuse she describes is severe, chronic, and damaging. Social work practice recognizes emotional maltreatment as a significant threat to mental health and development. Therefore, my recommendations focus on helping Marcia rebuild her sense of identity, autonomy, and self-worth, and areas that are also just deeply affected by her upbringing. One of the first steps I would take is conducting a comprehensive biopsychosocial assessment. This helps us understand Marcia's mental health status, social supports, coping strategies, functioning, and any risks that may be present in her home environment. This assessment is grounded in the person in environment framework, which is central to social work. It allows us to look more at her symptoms and struggles in the context of her relationships, her family dynamics, and her past trauma rather than assuming the problem lies within Marcia herself. Based on the pattern she describes, it is clear that Marcia has experienced long-term emotional invalidation, gaslighting, and chronic criticism. These forms of harm often result in anxiety, low self-esteem, self-blame, difficulty trusting others, and confusion about one's own thoughts and feelings. Because of this, the most immediate and meaningful intervention for Marcia would be trauma-informed individual therapy. I would recommend a therapist that is trained in abuse, attachment, trauma, and cognitive restructuring. Therapy would help focus more on like Marcia rebuilding her internal voice, recognizing the patterns of abuse she endured, and to learn healthier ways to interpret and to respond to her emotions. This aligns directly with the social work mission to enhance human well-being and support the most vulnerable individuals. Another service I would recommend is support groups that are specifically for survivors of emotional abuse. One of the most damaging effects of Marcia's upbringing is the isolation she experienced. Her parents repeatedly taught her that her feelings were wrong, exaggerated, or crazy. And so support groups would help counteract this by placing her in a community where others share similar experiences. And this relatability creates validation, empowerment, and a sense of belonging, which is something she never had growing up. Group work is just such a powerful social work intervention because it builds connections, reduces shame, and strengthens interpersonal skills. In addition to therapy and support groups, Marcia could also benefit from psychoeducation. Many survivors of emotional abuse don't really have the language to describe what they went through. So, being able to teach Marcia about the dynamics of gaslighting, coercive control, trauma response, and emotional neglect would really help her to understand that her reactions are normal responses to chronic mistreatment. Psychoeducation also strengthens self-worth and encourages healthier patterns moving forward. Depending on Marcia's age and living situation, additional services may be necessary. If Marcia is still a minor, um, I would kind of consider or I would consider child protective services. Emotional abuse is recognized as a form of maltreatment, and the chronic patterns of intimidation, belittling, and invalidation she describes suggest an unhealthy and unsafe emotional environment. And CPS involvement would not be about punishing the parents, but rather ensuring that Marcia is emotionally safe and that Maybe they need to provide family-based interventions if that's what is appropriate to the situation. This could include parent education, communication skills training, or supervised visitations, depending on the severity of the situation. If Marsha is an older teen or emerging adult, I would also suggest exploring transition-based supports, such as life skills training, mentoring programs, or supportive housing if needed. Many individuals who grow up in emotionally abusive homes struggle with confidence, decision making, and sometimes even independent living. So, as a social worker, I can play a key role in helping her access these resources that support stability and empowerment. Another essential part of the social work perspective here is advocating for Marcia. This could include helping her accesses to financial assistance, connecting her to educational or vocational programs, or just supporting her voice in settings where she might feel unheard. The NASW Code of Ethics emphasizes the importance of promoting self-determination and advocacy, and those are some of the strongest tools that a social worker can use. Overall, the services I'm recommending are therapy, support groups, psychoeducation, possible CPS involvement, and long-term stability support groups are grounded in trauma-informed care, strengths-based practice, and the social work commitment to dignity and worth of every person, no matter their case. Marsha's story highlights the invisible but profound effects of emotional abuse. Through these interventions, the goal is to help her rebuild her identity, develop internal strength, and just build relationships rooted in respect, validation, and safety. So, thank you guys for listening, and I look forward to reading everyone's perspectives and discussing how our different or similar disciplines can work together to help Marsha. Thanks.